We're continuing on in Genesis. This time we're going to do day 2. What we saw in day 1 is this pattern of night and day was a way of counting time. That's a functional use of night and day. What we're going to see in day 2 is also functional. We're going to look at how the Hebrew looked at how things function, not their material makeup. So let's take a look at the passage we're going to look at day 2. I'll put it up on screen for you. Verse 6 of Genesis 1, and God said, let there be an expanse. Expanse basically means a canopy or a covering in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse, and it was so. And God called the expanse heaven, or sky as the text actually reads. And there was evening and there was the morning, the second day. An expanse, a empty place, sort of. What if you'll recall the dome and the circle of the earth, you've got, it's like putting a teacup upside down. You got a space in there. That's the sky. So what is in the sky? Well, on a nice day, it's a sunny day. But it also could be rainy, it could be hot, it could be cold, it could be stormy, lightning. All of these things are in the expanse. So what does the expanse mean to an ancient Hebrew out somewhere in the Sinai or in the Levant, Palestinian area, tending sheep? What does that mean to him? Well, we have a word for it. It's called weather. On day 2, God invented weather. He set the pattern in motion so people could live there. So sometimes it was dry, and sometimes rains came to water the ground, and sometimes it was cold, sometimes it was hot, and sometimes the winds blow and sometimes they don't. All of this we call weather, and we humans are quite obsessed with weather. We devote whole TV shows to weather, documentaries to weather. Every newscast has a portion devoted to weather. You meet strangers on the street, what do you talk about? Probably the weather. Weather and time. We spend a lot of time obsessed with weather and time. But to the ancient Hebrew, this is what God made. So he gets out of his tent in the morning, plants his feet on the earth, and as far as he's concerned, his head is in the sky. It's in the weather. So on day 2, that's what God invented from a Hebrew point of view. Now, we Westerners think of more like material weather. Material, I mean, we talk about the water droplets, we talk about, high and low pressure areas and all that kind of stuff. But the Hebrew doesn't. He just thinks that it's of divine origin. All weather is supernatural somehow. So he thinks he lives in a supernatural world. He lives in a world generated, developed, run by the supernatural. So does that make us wrong? Not necessarily. If you want to keep thinking about the material world instead of the functional world, go right ahead. Because none of this really has anything to do with how well we follow the Master. So, in all things, whether we are right or whether we are wrong, whether we want to change our mind and think functional instead of material, just keep looking up at the Master. He'll never lead you astray.